Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now July 2nd of 2023. We're a couple of days in with The Dial of Destiny now being in theaters and box office results slowly coming our way. We know that both Thursday and Friday added up to a very underwhelming 24 million for The Dial of Destiny, which is right on par with The Flash, 24.1 million. Give or take. It really is not looking good for Lucasfilm right now so far. And hey, I mean, things could change for today and leading into Monday, but I don't really believe so. We'll have to wait and see as time rolls by. Now, we're going to be going over exactly what's going on with Kathleen Kennedy and Hollywood and what's going on with a lot of the studios. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into what's going on here. Now, the first thought that comes to my mind right now with Kennedy is that she's like the Wicked Witch of the West in, of course, the, pop culture icon, of course, when you look at everything related to the Wizard of Oz. I'm melting. That's how I feel what Kathleen Kennedy is going through right now. A lot of studios are beginning to wake up. They are banishing her left and right, and we're going to be covering exactly what's going on with this whole fiasco and why The Dial of Destiny essentially contributed to a lot of this. Now, we've gone over a couple of updates about the whole Kathleen Kennedy banishment in Hollywood and what's going on with that. Essentially a blacklist, if you will. They don't necessarily use that term anymore, but that's basically what it is. So let's get right into exactly what's going on here. So with Kathleen Kennedy now in deep trouble related to The Dial of Destiny updated box office projections, there, of course, lies updated developments surrounding her banishment in Hollywood from the major Hollywood studios. Now, one major development about this is that many other studios have finalized their decision to banish any discussions that have had for the future to work with Kennedy or to even bring in Kennedy into working on a project. Adding to the list now, finally, is Universal, 20th Century, Sony, and Columbia, all of which serve as the studios that were on the fence of making it final to blacklist Kennedy eventually, that of course have now made it final to use Kennedy as a textbook example of how to ruin franchises in a row. 3 franchises, I must add. Now, Kennedy's husband, Frank Marshall, is attempting to use his contacts of those studios to dig Kennedy out of this hole, which of course is having no resolution, which is spelling doom for Kennedy and her time in Hollywood. However, she is still developing her very own studio dubbed simply as Starlight Productions, which is set to hire ex-Lucasfilm employees and Leslie Headland as the vice president currently. Universal was said to have been involved in some conversations with Kennedy and Frank Marshall on future film projects after her time at Lucasfilm. However, that immediately crumbled and came to an end after learning what she did with Willow and now Indiana Jones and more related to what's coming with the Acolyte for Star Wars. Now, guys, let me stop here for a second now. We know that Frank Marshall and Kathleen Kennedy have had a big history with Universal, and they were trying to do something for the future. We're not quite sure exactly what those developments were, but they were supposed to be major IPs, major franchises that they were going to kickstart again. Now, interestingly enough, this was basically Kathleen Kennedy's backup plan after Lucasfilm to kind of get involved with a lot of other studios out there again, and that all fell apart now after The Dial of Destiny, after what's happening with the Acolyte and how a lot of Disney test screenings have been failing left and right. And let's not forget about what happened with Willow and Star Wars as a whole. 3 major franchises that ripped the fandom into 2, basically, leaving them very divided. In fact, I would go as far to say that it's not really divided. I'm seeing that it's more the negative that outweighs the positive. Any people that love the sequel trilogy, I feel, are the minority now, at least in my mind. I don't know if you guys agree, but that's how I see things. We'll have to get exact statistics on that in the future, but what's really surprising and alarming about this is that this just goes to show you that, yes, Kathleen Kennedy is doing this intentionally, with all of the major franchises, and the studios like Universal, Columbia, etc., they're beginning to wake up, and they're noticing that pushback from fans, and that's why Universal said, let's kind of embrace this, this Nintendo-verse and kind of get this thing rolling. That's why we've been talking about how there's been a lot of rumblings right now behind the scenes of a Legend of Zelda movie in the works that's going to be done in a similar animation style to that of the Super Mario Bros. Movie to kind of expand that. And there's even a lot of talk that they want to eventually branch out to a Super Smash Bros. Film, being like the Avengers of the Nintendo-verse, essentially. So, look, I mean, they have their own thing going there, and we know that even Nintendo, Universal, whatever, they want to create their own princess lineup, with Daisy and Princess Peach to combat against Disney's princesses out there. So there's a lot of things going on with that too, let's not forget. So moving on, alright, as of now, every single studio in Hollywood, for the most part, wants nothing to do with Kennedy and has restricted her from their studios and or blacklisted her from ever getting involved in the future. This is now putting Disney on the spot with having Kennedy still hired at Lucasfilm as the president, which is making Disney look bad, and the executives are now not happy about that one bit. Frank Marshall feels studios rushed through with Kennedy's banishment and way too early, and should have waited at least until August after the INDY box office results are final. So again, Frank Marshall, a very powerful man. Guy has a lot of contacts in Hollywood, and this is how it's getting rooted back to Lucasfilm, because he knows a lot of contacts over at Universal, and that kind of spilled way over into there about what's going on with Kennedy's banishment, or her blacklist over at the Hollywood sphere, as I like to call it, or as many others like to call it, the Hollywood bubble. It's not looking good, guys, for Kennedy, and if she pursues her own production company, it's gonna fail, because she is trying to create a company, we've talked about this, to basically combat against or create a competitor against Star Wars, Trek, Dune, etc. It's not gonna work. It's just not gonna work, because with the plan to get Leslie Headland in there as the vice president, stuff like that, I think it connects to everything of why Leslie is so prominent with the Acolyte series. And let's not forget about who Leslie Headland really is. Weinstein's ex-personal assistant. We can never forget that. I mean, that's the truth of the matter of things here. So that's what Lucasfilm is dealing with, and that's on Disney's hands, and it's really looking bad for them. But overall, I mean, this banishment, good on Universal, good on Columbia, good on everybody else out there for just putting a big fat X on Kathleen Kennedy's face and saying no to her, and really standing their ground and noticing this pushback. Guys, I firmly believe that you're going to begin to notice more quality-driven material coming out now, with Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning serving as a great example, as a follow-up to Tom Cruise's success with Maverick. So guys, drop a comment below. Fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.